Good day to everyone. Welcome back to our fifth module on child and adolescent development. So today's topic will be focusing on adolescent social and behavioral development naman. Now, what is the social development of adolescents nga ba? This takes place in the context of all their relationships. It also involves a dramatic change in quantity and quality of social relationships. Habang nagmamature kasi ang ating mga adolescents, yung kanilang mental and emotional aspects ay mas nagiging complex. So as a result, pati yung social relationships nila or yung relationships nila with other people ay mas nagiging complex din consequently. Also, cognitive and emotional development play a significant role in the development of social behavior. Now, let's move on to the process of social development. This reflects how adolescents build or establish relationships with other people. So, kung paano sila makisama or makipagkapwa sa kanilang peers. Ayan. So, in terms of maturation, concept of friends change as they transition from child to adolescent. What do we mean by this? Kasi 'di ba kapag bata pa tayo, lahat ng makita natin or makilala natin is friends ang tawag natin, 'di ba? So kahit once mo pa lang siya nakita or hindi naman kayo ganun ka-close, you refer to him or her as a friend, your friend, okay? But as we grow and as we mature, we soon learn to differentiate friends from mere acquaintances, yung totoo mong kaibigan sa kakilala mo lang. On the other hand, in terms of managing multiple relationships naman, adolescents learn how to balance these. So, kumbaga natututo na tayo kung paano makisama sa ibang tao depending on the type of relationship that we have. So, for example, let's talk about professional relationships or yung boss-employee relationships. So, iba kasi yung pakikitungo natin sa ating boss or kahit sa ating mga coworkers kumpara sa pakikitungo natin sa ating mga circle of friends. Bakit? Hindi dahil meron tayong personal agenda or vested interest. No, it's not like that. Meron kasing fine line between personal and professional. So, we must not overstep our boundaries pagdating doon. Also, we need to understand na ang pakikisama is dapat ilugar depende again sa type of relationship na meron tayo dun sa isang tao na yan or dun sa mga tao na yan. Lastly, in terms of technology and social development, the size and complexity of social networks have dramatically expanded. So, how? By changing the way youth relates to one another. So, paano to? Kasi before, kapag nakikita nyo na may common interest kayo, it's usually books, ganyan, diba? Or kumbaga parang sports, ayan. So, kailangan magtanungan pa kayo and stuff, 'di ba? Pero ngayon, kung halimbawa makita mo sa Facebook, uy, may common interest kami. Uy, nilike niya itong picture na to or itong page na to. So, that's something that we have in common. So, kahit hindi kayo nag-uusap pa or kahit hindi nyo pa napag-uusapan itong particular bagay na to, you already know na, uy, pwede pala kaming mag-usap tungkol dito. I can relate better to this person since I already know this about him or her. Ganyan. Next, by increasing the amount of time spent staying connected with one another. So ngayon, basta meron kang gadget, be it a cellphone, laptop, or whatever it is, and as long as meron kang internet connection or meron kang load, diba? You can stay connected sa isa't isa. Hindi mo na kailangan makipagkita personally and hindi mo na kailangan magsulat ng letters like in the olden times, 'di ba? So, mas madali na ang connections today. And lastly, by redefining what it means to be a friend. Kasi sa panahon ngayon, for example, Facebook friends kayo, does it automatically mean na totoong kaibigan mo siya or they know you on a deeper level? Diba? Syempre hindi. More often than not, usually nakilala mo lang itong person na ito sa isang event or nakausap somewhere nung may pinuntahan ka. Kumbaga, you're more of acquaintances instead of friends. Okay? Or pwede din naman na old friend siya. dati mong kaibigan, pero huli mo siyang nakausap is a few years ago pa, mga 10, 5 years or something, di ba? So now, punta naman tayo sa factors that influence social development. So meron tayong 8 na pag-uusapan today. So meron tayong biological factor, peer relationships, family relationships, school, community, influence of neighborhood characteristics, media, faith, or religious institutions. So, isa-isahin naman natin ito. First, for the biological factor. So, yung mga hormonal changes that affect the activity levels, mood swings, and aggressive tendencies of development. Kaya nga tinatawag ang adolescent years as rebellious years. So, hindi naman natin generalize, but most of the time, that is what happens. Kasi this is the stage wherein people often tend to lash out or be more aggressive sa lahat ng aspeto. Next is peer relationships. So this is one of the greatest social changes for adolescents. Ito yung time na yung peers nila become more important, if not the most important, things sa stage nila ng kanilang buhay. It allows them to gain independence from their families, and also by identifying with their peers, adolescents start to develop moral judgment and values and explore how they differ from their parents. Kumbaga, yung pag-establish nila ng relationships with their peers enables them to develop further their sense of identity. Kumbaga, nalalaman din nila or nakikilala na nila ang kanilang sarili ng mas malalim pa. Third is the family relationships. So, parent and teen conflict tends to peak with younger adolescents. So, ito na yung medyo, sabi nga kanina, rebellious years ng bata. So, there are 2 types of conflict. Meron tayong spontaneous conflict over day-to-day matters, and meron din tayong conflict over important issues. So, generally, the spontaneous conflict is much more distressing to parents. On the other hand, adolescents generally see the spontaneous conflict as insignificant. So, bakit kaya ganito ang nangyayari? Kasi most of the time, the parent thinks na kilala nila yung bata inside out. Kasi, syempre, ang katwiran, you grew up with me by your side. So, kilala kita. From the perspective of the parents, ganun yung thinking nila. So, they end up confused and frustrated kapag mali yung akala nila or kumbaga nagkakaroon ng clash between the teenager and the parent. On the part naman of the adolescent, sa kanya is, this is just me trying to express myself. This is me trying to articulate my feelings to you para maintindihan mo ko. I just want to be understood even in the simplest things. So basically, these 2 conflicting perspectives are bound to lead sa hindi pagkakaintindihan. So now we move on to conflict over important issues naman. So this can range from the adolescent school performance, peer relationships, hanggang sa sexual orientation ng bata and their future plans. Fourth, we have school. So for most adolescents, it is a prominent part of their life kasi you spend most of your life, your time in school rather than at home. It is here that they relate to and develop relationships with peers kasi you are away from your family. Kumbaga, in a sense, you have this partial independence from your family or your parents. Also, it is where they have the opportunity to develop key cognitive skills kasi syempre, school is where you learn, diba? Where you learn about different things that will help you become a better person. Next, we have community. So this includes factors such as socioeconomic characteristics of one's neighborhood, types of resources available, service systems within the community, and religious organizations, media, and the people who live in it. So community rules and values generally provide basis for the adolescent's principles and value system. Kumbaga kasi ito yung nakasanayan na nila eh. Ito yung environment na nakalakihan nila, so in effect, madadala din nila ito pagtanda. Sixth is the influence of neighborhood characteristics. So neighborhood socioeconomic status or yung tinatawag nating SES and stability can significantly affect adolescent development. So, link between low SES or yung socioeconomic status nga, and adolescent delinquent and problem behaviors may be due in part to lack of community institutions in poorer neighborhoods to monitor the activities of the youth. Kumbaga kasi pag medyo less privilege yung community na ginagalawan mo or yung neighborhood kung saan ka namumuhay, hindi na masyado nabibigyan ng focus yung activities of the youth kasi ang focus na natin is kung paano tayo makakasurvive day by day. Seventh is media. Adolescents spend an estimated 6 to 8 hours per day exposed to some form of media. Pwede siyang music, TV, internet, cellphone, laptop, etc. So, although media will continue to be a growing influence on adolescents' development, the ultimate effects will depend upon the extent to which positive possibilities can be harnessed and negative influences minimized. So, kumbaga lahat naman ng bagay ay may positive and negative side. It is only up to us kung paano natin i-maximize yung positive at i-minimize yung negative. Kumbaga, balance lang dapat. And last but not the least, we have faith or religious institutions. So, adolescents who are hungry for meaning, kumbaga, they are looking for meaning sa buhay nila. Ito pa kasi yung stage kung saan hinahanap pa nila ang kanilang sarili. So, they benefit from the following. Positive role models, ayan, explicit discussions of moral values, and a community in which there are activities that are structured around pro-social values. So, kasama na din dito yung religious values. So, when we are talking about faith or religious institutions, it doesn't mean naman na kailangan super religious yung adolescent, okay? What is important lang is that they are able to find meaning in their lives, in their identity. Kumbaga parang yung kanilang moral compass ay patungo sa tamang direksyon. Hindi siya maliligaw ng landas. Now, let's go to behavioral development naman. So, this results from the behavioral experimentation they make as response to the developmental changes they experience. This experimentation results in risk-taking na tinatawag. So, this risk-taking is a normal part of adolescent development. Since dito tayo naging independent or dito tayo natututong maging independent, and this is when we are able to make our own decisions regarding our lives. Engaging in risk-taking behavior helps them to shape their identities, try out new decision-making skills, develop realistic assessment of themselves, and gain peer acceptance and respect. One thing that we have to remember is that adolescents still need guidance to channel the drive toward risk-taking behavior into less dangerous and more constructive pursuits. Kumbaga, yes, it is normal to have risk-taking behavior, pero syempre, mas preferred natin sa positive channels ilalabas itong risk-taking behavior na ito or i-apply. Okay? So, when we are talking about risk-taking, ito yung tendency to engage in behaviors that have the potential to be harmful or dangerous. Kumbaga, medyo delikado siya. Be it physical, mental, or emotional health, pwedeng maapektuhan. Yet, at the same time, it also provides the opportunity for some kind of outcome that can be perceived as positive. Kumbaga, itong positive outcome na to, ito yung potential for growth nung bata kasi dito siya magsisimulang maging independent eh. Sabi nga, 'di ba? Paano tayo matututo kung hindi tayo susubok na lumabas sa ating respective comfort zones? Also, as we have mentioned earlier, risk-taking satisfies the adolescent's need to explore their own limits, abilities, and boundaries. Now, how do we help adolescents deal with risk-taking? Kasi again, as we mentioned earlier, there is a possibility na maging dangerous or harmful itong risk-taking behavior na ito. So, what are the ways on how we can help them deal with this? Una, help them weigh the dangers and benefits of a particular situation. Kumbaga, i-weigh nyo muna ano ba yung pwedeng mangyari. Ano yung possible pros and cons nitong gagawin ko na to if I choose to do this. Okay? Kasi syempre, if there are more negative consequences, syempre, mag-isip tayo, diba? Next, let them consider their own strengths and weaknesses that may affect decision making. For example, may gusto siyang pasuking endeavor, diba? Ano ba yung strengths mo? Ito ba ay enough for you to succeed if you are going to do this? At ano yung mga weaknesses mo na pwedeng humadlang sa'yo from succeeding or achieving your goal? And lastly, encourage them to pursue positive pathways to satisfy their need for risk-taking. So, pwedeng ito yung mga sumali sa extracurriculars, mag-engage in organizations, and many more. Next, we have the warning signs on abnormal risk-taking. Ibig sabihin nito, out of the ordinary and beyond normal experimentation. Kumbaga, red flags na. So, ano-ano ba ito? Una, yung risk-taking behavior begins early around 8 to 9 years old. Ito ay medyo bata pa to start having risk-taking behaviors. Usually kasi, again, pag adolescent pa lang or teenager, saka pa lang lumalabas yung mga risk-taking behaviors na yan. Pag earlier than that, medyo red flag na and kailangang i-monitor. Second, behaviors are ongoing rather than just occasional. Imbes na minsan-minsan lang, ito ay consistent. Okay? And lastly, occurs in a social context with peers who engage in the same activity. Ito na yung sign na naiimpluwensyahan siya ng hindi maganda and we need to take action bago pa lumala. Last but not the least, we have the areas of most concern for at-risk youths. So, pag sinabi nating at-risk youths, ito yung mga may tendency na maligaw ng landas. Okay? So, first area is drug and alcohol abuse. Second is pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. Third is school failure and dropping out. And fourth is crime, delinquency, and violence. So, itong apat na ito yung ating dapat bantayan sa ating mga adolescents para ma-ensure natin na hindi sila mapapadpad sa maling daan. At dito nagtatapos ang ating 5th module on child and adolescent development. Thank you very much for listening and see you on our next module.